Welcome back to Real Talk Behind the Badge. I'm Tim, a retired police sergeant from Massachusetts, but I now reside in South Carolina. This is going to be our 5th podcast, and you can watch each one at realtalkbehindthebadge.com or on Facebook or on YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about the cost of defending police lawsuits and where all the money actually goes. Get ready because parts of this is going to knock your socks off. Now, since I live in South Carolina, I decided to dig into the insurance payouts here. I want you to understand the figures I'm about to show you come directly from the South Carolina Insurance Reserve Fund, which handles all the lawsuits from just about all the cities and counties in the state. I just added them up. You can see the link right here, so you can look them up for yourself if you'd like. Now, the Insurance Reserve Fund hires outside law firms to defend all the lawsuits and pays them up to $175 an hour plus expenses. So the following is what I found, and at the end, we'll talk about how this affects police officers in South Carolina. In the first quarter of 2024, the Insurance Reserve Fund paid out $9.2 million just in law enforcement claims. That's for 3 months. Of that $9.2 million, $182,000 was paid to plaintiffs for just 14 false arrest lawsuits. $232,900 was paid to contracted attorneys for the IRF to defend the lawsuits. So, to defend the lawsuits, the Insurance Reserve Fund paid about $50,000 more for the defense of the lawsuits than they paid to the victims. The defense of the lawsuits by the state of $232,900 is 56% of the total payouts for false arrest and 128% of the awards to the plaintiffs. Now, 6 of the lawsuits resulted in no awards to the plaintiffs, as you'll see here. We don't know whether they just dropped out, ran out of money to continue the lawsuit, or whether a court dismissed it on legal or technical grounds. In other words, the attorneys hired by the state got 28% more than the plaintiff's awards. Now, for every $1,000 a plaintiff receives, they usually end up with about 60% of an award. Their attorneys get the rest off the top for their fees and expenses. Here, that means the plaintiffs ended up obtaining about $109,300 after paying their attorneys. That also means the state-hired attorneys got over twice as much as the victim. That's $109,300 versus $232,900. Think about that, and that's not the worst of it. As you'll see here, brutality claims alone were over $1 million in payouts. Of that $1 million plus in payouts, only $150,000 was paid to plaintiffs, and $923,300 was paid to contracted attorneys for the IRF to defend the claims, that totaling 86% of the payouts. Let's move on to the civil rights claims, which are over $2 million in payouts by the Insurance Reserve Fund. Of that, $995,000 was paid to plaintiffs, and over $1 million was paid to the contracted attorneys for the Insurance Reserve Fund to defend the claims, that totaling 50.8% of the payouts. Remember, these figures are only for the first 3 fiscal months of 2024. So let's take a deeper look into a couple of these claims. We don't know exactly how much the attorneys for the plaintiff charge the plaintiff, but we can make a pretty good guess. South Carolina allows the attorneys to charge up to 35% of an award plus expenses. So if we were to assume a total of about 40%, we'd probably be within the ballpark. As we stated earlier, $415,100 was paid out in total for false arrest lawsuits. That's $182,200 paid to the plaintiffs, the complainant, and $232,900 paid to attorneys by the Insurance Reserve Fund to defend the lawsuits. If the plaintiff's attorneys charge a total of 40%, that is approximately $72,900. Add that together with the $232,900 paid to the attorneys representing the state of South Carolina, and you get a total of $305,800 paid to attorneys. So out of the $415,100 paid out by the IRF, $109,300 was received by the plaintiffs, and $305,800 went to attorneys. That's almost 3 times what the plaintiffs ended up receiving, and 73.7% of all the insurance funds spent on false arrest went to attorneys. What's going on here? I smell a rat. Now I want to take a moment here and give a plug for our sponsor, American Heritage CBD. They only sell federally legal CBD, and you will find some of the lowest prices ever. And if you join their membership, you can get everything at 50% off. You just can't beat their pricing. So go to AmericanHeritageCBD.com and check them out and order now. Now let's look at brutality claims. There were 4 brutality claims that paid out $1,073,362. One claim paid out $50,000 to the plaintiff, the victim, and then the state paid out $850,900 to lawyers hired by the state to defend the lawsuit. That's damn near $1 million. Another case paid out $0 to the plaintiff, and then the state paid $66,000 to attorneys to defend it. In total, there were 4 brutality lawsuits with a total of $150,000 paid to the plaintiffs and $923,300 paid to attorneys by the state to defend the 4 lawsuits. Now, if the plaintiff's attorneys charged a total of around 40%, that would be approximately $60,000 total. Add that together with the $923,300 paid to the attorneys representing the state of South Carolina and the IRF, and you get a total of $983,300. So out of the $1.07 million paid out by the state for the 4 brutality claims, $90,000 was received by the plaintiffs, and a total of $983,000 went to attorneys. That's over 10 times. That's 91.8% of all the funds spent on brutality cases by the Insurance Reserve Fund went to attorneys. Are you kidding me? Is this state-approved welfare scheme for attorneys? Would you like to hear more? How about civil rights lawsuits? Over $2 million was paid out for civil rights lawsuits. Now, most of these were Department of Correction lawsuits. One case paid out $42,000 to the plaintiff and then paid over $324,000 to lawyers hired by the IRF to defend that lawsuit. In total, that's $995,000 paid to the plaintiffs and $1.03 million paid to attorneys by the IRF to defend the lawsuits. Again, now, if the plaintiff's attorneys charged a total of 40%, that's approximately $398,000. Add that together with the $1.03 million paid to the attorneys representing the state of South Carolina and the IRF, and you get a total of $1.4 million paid to lawyers. So to total this up, out of the $2 million paid out by the state for civil rights violations, $597,000 was received by the plaintiffs, and $1.4 million went to attorneys. That's 70.5% of all the funds spent on civil rights violations went to attorneys. Are you hearing me yet? In total, for all claims against law enforcement, $5.9 million went to plaintiffs and $3.3 million went to attorneys representing the state of South Carolina. If you add the 40% of plaintiffs' awards going to their attorneys, there's a total of about $5.66 million, or 61.5% of the $9.2 million the state paid out went to lawyers. Remember, all those statistics are from the Insurance Reserve Fund's website and are only for the first quarter of 2024. Now, I decided to check out some prior years to see if it was the same. Here's what I found. The second quarter of 2022 for just false arrest lawsuits. There were 28 false arrest claims settled. Total claims paid out was $2.25 million. Plaintiffs were awarded $1.5 million. The IRF paid their lawyers $713,000, which was 46.3% of the total claims paid out. Add all the lawyer fees together, that's 40% of the plaintiff and the IRF fees. The lawyers got $1.33 million, which is 59% of the total monies paid out. Absolutely incredible. How or why do all these lawyers make all this money? Who makes all these laws giving attorneys all of our money? Now, would it surprise you if I told you that about 33% of our state reps are lawyers, the ones that are making the laws? Tell me, why would the state IRF hire these law firms for $3.3 million in the first quarter of 2024 when they could easily hire a team of their own lawyers that would work directly for the IRF for a hell of a lot less? This doesn't make any sense. So in the beginning, I told you how this would relate to policing. So to me, if I was a lawyer in a law firm hired by the state to defend all of these lawsuits, would I want police officers to keep having about the lowest amount of training in the U.S.? If I was a lawyer, hell yes, I would. Wouldn't you if you were a lawyer? Would you want police officers to have the best training in the U.S.? Hell no, no way. If I was a lawyer, I'd want these police officers to keep screwing up big time, create as many large lawsuits as possible. I wouldn't want them trained to know or understand the law. I would want them to continue to make me wealthy. Could that be what's going on? You tell me. And why does it take an average of 3 to 9 years to get a settlement on a lawsuit? Well, answer me this. If you were getting paid $175 an hour plus expenses, do you have any incentive to quickly negotiate a deal and get to an agreement? Or do you have an incentive to string it out as long as possible? Do even the plaintiff's attorneys have any incentive to quickly get to an agreement? I doubt it. The more expenses they have, the more they get. So thanks for listening. Something has to change, and we have to find that answer for change to happen. So in the next podcast, we're going to tackle a possible new process for resolving these lawsuits and save a lot or most of this money and get police officers the training they need and should have. Hit subscribe, share your thoughts, and let's keep this conversation going. This podcast is ground zero. I'm not here for the theories or to hear myself talk. I want real answers and input from officers who've walked the walk. You, me, our brothers and sisters in blue, let's cut through the bullshit. Academics can keep talking all they want, but we have to build the cure. Join me at realtalkbehindthebadge.com. Drop me your state, department, whether you're active or retired, what you've seen and what solutions you have in mind. The answers are out there. We just need to find them. Let's hash out the hard fixes, stuff we can shove in front of lawmakers and make it stick. We are just starting this journey, and we'd be pleased to have you join us. Your voices fuel this. If you've got answers you'd like to share and you want to do it live, let me know. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, let me know. So go to realtalkbehindthebadge.com. That's realtalkbehindthebadge.com, and drop a comment or a rant. And if you can, drop a couple bucks to help us out and keep this going. This podcast stuff ain't cheap or easy on a cop retiree's salary. Now, you can view our podcast on YouTube, Real Talk Behind the Badge, as we make them. If you hit subscribe, you'll be notified of each podcast. Please also hit the like button. We're also on Facebook at Real Talk Behind the Badge or at realtalkbehindthebadge.com, where you can also view all of our podcasts. Thanks to all of our brothers and sisters behind the badge. Keep it going, and we'll get this fixed. Stay safe. This is Real Talk, signing off until next time. Thank you, and be careful out there.